Hey everybody, Colby, the DGI Crab here, and if you've been watching this channel for long, you know that I am not a big proponent of yield chasing. But as we are getting near the month of September and there are expected to be rate cuts coming, which is a kind of a surprise to me. I didn't think that it was necessarily going to happen, but it sounds like more and more every day the Fed is going to be cutting interest rates. Finding good, high, and safe yield is going to be important for current income seekers. And when I'm thinking current income seekers, I'm generally thinking of people that are in their 50s or older, because anyone younger than that still needs to be, in my opinion, focused more on year over year higher growth as opposed to buying into high yield right now. But I came across this article recently on Seeking Alpha, where the writer goes about analyzing some companies that offer very high yield that is safe, or at least we think is going to be safe from blue chip companies. So I wanted to at least run through the part of the article where those companies are discussed, see how many of them are part of the DGI Crab 60 stock portfolio, and what kind of exposure we're getting to those companies. Before I jump in, as always, I'm not a professional financial advisor. This is just a one crab's opinion, so don't take this as financial advice. Just trying to share some knowledge and some strategies with you all out there to help you on your investing journey. All right, so I'm going to pull up the article here, and like I said, I'm going to link the article in the description below. So if anyone wants to go and read the whole thing to see exactly what the methodology this author used, I encourage you to go and do that and check it out and see what you think. But I just want to jump right into the stocks that they selected here. So the first one is MPLX, which is an MLP. That means, as they note here, there is a K1 tax form that you'll have to fill in for the dividends that are collected from MPLX. The next one, British American Tobacco, stock ticker BTI, big tobacco company. Now, neither of these first two are in the 60 stocks that this channel focuses on for our income seekers. So we'll take a look at them both a little bit closely here as we move on. The third one is Altria Group, stock ticker MO. Now, this one did make the cut for me for the tier 4 investors aged 54 and up. Now, British American Tobacco's fine company. Altria in that space definitely edged them out, in my opinion. I think that's the better investment of the two, but both will definitely bring you high yield. Now, Enterprise Products Partners, stock ticker EPD. It was very tough for me to leave this one off the list. The only reason why EPD did not make the final cut for the tier 4 investors is because of that K1 tax form. It's in effect for MPLX, and it's in effect for EPD. EPD is my favorite of the MLPs, the Master Limited Partnerships. They've got a very long track record of steadily increasing their dividend, not by a lot. It's usually one that increases annually, like 2-ish% a year. It's kind of similar to Verizon in that regard. You usually get a yield anywhere from like 6 to 8%, depending on the price of the stock at the time, and a slow but steady growing year over year yield. Scotiabank, one of the excellent Canadian bank stocks, stock ticker BNS. I definitely like this stock. I like all of the big Canadian bank stocks. They're all fine investments. I personally don't invest in any single stock that's not an American-based company. That's just my strategy. But if I were to invest in some international individual stocks, Scotiabank certainly would be one that I'd be taking a very close look at. Arguably my favorite non-US stock, regardless of industry or starting yield or any of that, is Enbridge, stock ticker ENB. Enbridge is a Canadian-based company as well. This is about as stable of a high yield investment as I think that you will find. Enbridge is going to be a company that they just have so much energy infrastructure and pipelines. You know, they've got basically a built-in captive customer base. Very good investment. At one point in time, this is a stock that I did own before. This has been a little while ago before I cleaned up more my portfolio and whittled it down to have a very specific focus in mind, like I go over with on this channel. I'll be honest with you, I kind of miss owning it. There are better stocks for me to own as somebody at age 40 in that tier 2 category where I am still looking for high single digit year over year dividend growth, which I'm not going to meet that target with Enbridge, but for current income seekers, certainly a fine stock to have. TC Energy, stock ticker TRP, another Canadian based company, good solid high yield, very steady year over year dividend growth once again. Certainly a good quality company. And then finally, they have Main Street Capital, stock ticker MAIN. Definitely one that did make the cut for me on the tier 4 investors for the income seekers. Maine is a stable monthly payer that has been shelling out, in addition to their 12 payments a year, since they dish them out every month. They've also been, for a couple of years now, also including special quarterly dividends. So just a ton to like about Main Street Capital, the largest internally managed BDC in the country. Lots to like about that company for an income seeker. So this is so of the risks to consider. The author does point out that these are 8 blue chips that are concentrated in just 3 sectors, so they're not meant to represent a complete portfolio. Ultra blue chip investing seems like a dream on paper. These 8 blue chips historically average 6.2% yields and today yield 7.3%, a 15% historical discount. So this author on that note is taking into account the dividend discount model, which is the primary metric that I utilize as well. So certainly there is a lot to like about this group of companies. Just to kind of take a peek at a couple of them really quickly, let's take a look at British American Tobacco, another non-US company. 8% yield, 7% growth rate, quarterly payer. We'll take a quick look at, let's see here. They don't have the payout ratio listed right now. That must be in the process of updating. The 4-year average yield on BTI, just a shade under 8%. And let's look at the dividend growth here over the years. British American Tobacco looks pretty stable. 290, 264, 294, 273. So it's been yielding pretty stably here for a while. So if we go all the way back, 10 years ago to 2014 when it was at 242, it's been between 242 and 294 pretty much every year. Not every year does it grow. So there are some years where it dips a little bit, like we see in 2022. The yield went down 10% and then recovered back in 2023 by 9.9%. Now, I like stocks that very gradually increase year over year. So if we compare that to Altria Group, which did make the cut for me, you can see with Altria, the growth is stable. You can see the annual payout growth 4%, 4, 3, 3, 9, 18, some 8s, but it just continues to steadily go up. It doesn't have those years where it goes down 10% and then it goes up 9 and then it goes up 4 and then it goes down 6. And this is really important to consider for people in retirement You want that nice high yield that's going to pay for your expenses and make sure that you don't end up having to go back to work. But you also don't want to be in a situation where you have a handful of different investments that pay out 10% less one year and then go back up another year. It's very unpredictable. And you don't want to be in a situation where your income is unpredictable. You want it to be stable. You want it to keep up with normal inflation. So that way you're not playing guesswork. You're not worried about if from quarter to quarter you're going to have enough money to cover yourself if if we go through some bad times. If we look at the dividend scorecard here in Altria, you can see we're getting a very similar yield here in the high 7%. 4-year growth rate at 4%, which we just reviewed. Payout ratio just under 80%, which is high for a lot of companies. But in the tobacco industry, this is fairly standard. There's not anything I'm particularly worried about here. They're not going to grow that dividend aggressively. 54 years of increasing the dividend consecutively, making this a dividend king. And if we look at the yield history, the 4-year average yield right at 8%. So very similar yield numbers between the two tobacco companies, but this is the one that I chose, and I hope that you understand why that is the case. Now, as for some of the other ones, like, TRP or TC Energy, Scotiabank, Enbridge, companies like that, we're getting exposure to those kind of companies in my strategy with VYMI, the Vanguard High Dividend Yield ETF. You can see with this one, financials make up 36% of this high yield ETF. So I guarantee you all of those Canadian banks are in fact in here. I was going to see if Scotia was in the top 10. It is not. Royal Bank of Canada is. But certainly all of those Canadian banks are going to be in there. Um, TC Energy is going to be in there. So definitely not concerned about that whatsoever. And then on the MLP side for the income seekers, some of you may remember, and I go over this pretty consistently, MLPX, which is the Global X MLP and Energy Infrastructure ETF. This is what I recommend as the preferred choice for that MLP sector. You can see here with this one, there's 26 holdings in it. TC Energy is the 4th highest holding. Enbridge is the number 1 holding here. So you're getting exposure to those two companies as they combined make up more than 18% of this ETF. So really, for every $100 you invest into MLPX, you're getting $18 worth of Enbridge and TC Energy combined. So, and the nice thing about MLPX is the dividends you collect on this, you don't have to do the K1 tax form. It's just normal qualified dividend income. So I hope you found this interesting, everyone. It's been tough to find good solid values in the high yielding stock sector. These are certainly good companies and good ideas to think about. But really, just don't chase high yield, whether you're a current income seeker or you're young. You want to, if you're a current income seeker, yeah, you want to get high yield, but you still want that to be stable, consistently growing, even if it's growing slow. Slow dividend growth is much better than inconsistent dividends or dividend cuts. My name is Colby, the DGI Crab. As always, I will link in the video description links to each of the 4 tiers, which is what this channel is all about, and it'll go through each of the stocks I've picked for the channel, explain why they all are on the list. Tier 4 is for the income seekers especially, so check that one out. Email me your questions at dgicrab@yahoo.com. Let's go get that passive income, everyone.